Have a shutter constraint, you can see us waving.
All right, great copy.
Similar to the keep-out sphere, but this time it's a three-dimensional ellipsoid measuring 4 kilometers by 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers. And one of the key differences with the approach ellipsoid is that vehicles outside of it have to be on what we call a 24-hour safe free drift trajectory. This means the spacecraft would not cross into the approach ellipsoid for at least 24 hours, even if it lost all maneuvering. After the spacecraft crosses the approach ellipsoid, joint operations will end, and responsibility for the spacecraft will be handed back to the SpaceX flight control team in Hawthorne, California. Again, everything continuing to look good with Dragon's departure today following a physical separation about 10 minutes ago at 6:15 a.m. Central, 7:15 a.m. Eastern. Dragon is now about 340 meters away from the International Space Station and continuing to increase that distance. And teams on the ground will continue to monitor the weather ahead of a splashdown tomorrow, Tuesday, July 15th at 5:31 a.m. Eastern off the coast of California. After Dragon exits the approach ellipsoid, there will be a couple of more departure burns and phasing burns to set the spacecraft up for the correct phasing and location for splashdown. And for those of you who are just joining us, the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft carrying the Axiom Mission 4 crew recently undocked from the International Space Station's Harmony module at 6:15 a.m. Central, 7:15 a.m. Eastern.
So we are waiting the splashdown of the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft with India's Shubhanshu Shukla and 3 other astronauts on the Axiom-4 mission. They will undock the Harmony module of International Space Station, and like you heard there, they are 400 meters away from the ISS. The splashdown off the coast of California, the United States, is expected at 5:30 a.m. EDT, that is 3 p.m. It was expected at 3 p.m. IST. The timings have a margin window of approximately 1 hour. And the Union Minister for Science and Technology and Earth Sciences, Dr. Jitendra Singh, is currently observing this mission. Shukla's message yesterday was very clear. I'll just read it verbatim. He said, 41 years ago, an Indian came to space and he told us how India looks from up above. Today's India looks ambitious from space. Today's India looks fearless. Today's India looks confident. Today's India looks full of pride. Today's India still looks Sare Jahan Se Acha. This was his farewell address aboard the ISS. He spoke with English and in Hindi on the eve of the commencement of the Axiom-4 cruise return journey to Earth, which is happening now. He also said that our journey ahead into space exploration may be long and arduous, but it has begun. He did conduct experiments, various experiments, while he was in the International Space Station, or the ISS. Siddharth MP is our correspondent. He's now joining us live on this broadcast. Siddharth MP, this is quite a milestone for India and also the world. Probably you can tell us what happens next after the splashdown.
Hello, Eric. Let me start by saying that what has just started now, the docking, is a long process. So now the spacecraft has separated from the space station. You can think of it in simple terms as, you know, a helicopter or an aircraft on a ship, on a large ship, and that particular helicopter or aircraft having departed. So the ship is where it is. The ship is a larger body. It's the mother body. And this is a small spacecraft that has departed from that. It has parted ways. It's moving away. It's on its way back to Earth. So what's going on right now is a process to gradually push the spacecraft away from the space station. So as you said, 400 meters and so on. So gradually it will push itself away. But what we're looking at is a 22-hour journey at least. So it's only by tomorrow evening, about 3 p.m. Indian time, that we expect this particular craft to splash down off the California coast. So what's happening right now is that the craft is gradually firing its engines. So with every subsequent firing, the craft moves away from the space station. So obviously they'll, move considerably away from the space station and then start circling the Earth independently. So that's what we're expecting. To compare this with how they got to the space station, they started off in a journey where, they got to the space station in a matter of let's say 24 hours, 24 to 26 hours is the journey from Earth to the space station. Likewise, now the return journey is taking about 22 hours. This is because of the calculated maneuvers and the precision it requires. There's also the option of returning in 6 hours, but all of them depend on very technical factors. And in this case, they've taken a decision to return in, about 22 hours, which is why they'll return tomorrow evening. And that's a splashdown around 3 o'clock Indian time, in afternoon time, India. And let's also remember that once they splash down, immediately there are going to be ships and helicopters that approach the craft. And then the astronauts are going to be brought out of the craft. Basic inspections will be done. Their basic health checks will be done then and there. And then immediately by helicopter, they're transported to land, where further medical checks and procedures are conducted, Eric.
All right. Siddharth MP is our correspondent. Siddharth, stay with me. One of the key experiments Shukla conducted during his time at the ISS involved the study of space microalgae to understand their potential to produce food, oxygen and biofuels. These experiments were very crucial for the 4 astronauts who were aboard the ISS. For 14 to 16 days, their resilience and also versatility could be useful in supporting human life on long-duration missions to space, performing centrifugation or cyanobacteria. Shukla compared the 2 strains of these photosynthetic microorganisms, aiming to understand how microgravity affects their growth, cellular behavior and biochemical activity. And again, these experiments were very crucial in understanding diabetes and also cancer. Siddharth MP, coming back to you, why was it important for these astronauts to conduct some of these experiments at the ISS?
There were a total of 60 experiments that the Axiom-4 crew conducted aboard the space station. So if you look at why they conducted these experiments, the answer is very simple. Each one of them represents a different space agency. The 2 European astronauts are representing the European Space Agency, Hungary and Poland and so on. And as far as India is concerned, Shukla is representing ISRO. Each of these space agencies have a long-term objective. So each of these experiments were tailor-made so that this meets the long-term objective. Speaking of Shukla's experiment specifically, the idea was to test certain types of bacteria and see whether, they can be used as food sources or other sources for, long-term human stay in space. The goal is that all countries with spacefaring capabilities are looking at long-term stay in space. For example, the Indian government announced 2 years back that India wants to build its own space station. So what happens when you have a space station up there above Earth? You don't have ferry services every day or every few weeks going there and supplying them with food or water. So one option is to try and see if you can grow something aboard the space station, like plants, like some sort of seeds, which can be edible. So if you can grow that on board, it means that you are self-sustaining at least for a short period of time. So that's the idea behind growing something on board the space station. Here on Earth, we have the luxury of agriculture. We can grow whatever we like, or if you want, we can import whatever we like and we can consume it. But aboard the space station, you're 420 kilometers above the Earth, and it costs billions of dollars to transport anything from Earth to space. So purely for that reason, for economic purposes as well, it is important that astronauts try and grow their own food over there, at least in small quantities, to try and see if that can be sustainable in the longer term. Every couple of months, there are spacecrafts that go to the space station carrying food and water and supplies. But that is only for a limited quantity and limited time. But if you can really, grow something in space and then consume that, then there's nothing like that. That's the reason why a lot of these experiments are done.